On today's show, it's too hard to build an NBA roster. The NBA is broken, according to 1/4 of the GMs in the league. Do we agree? Kind of. Today's Locked On NBA Daily starts now.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to Locked On NBA. My name is Nick Angstadt, host of the Locked On Mavericks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'll be your shot clock Sherpa today, filling in for Wes Goldberg, who is probably lost in the Miami airport. That is one of the worst airports I've been to, and he probably just got swallowed up and is not able to be here today. We'll be talking all about the NBA GM survey. We'll talk about the Pacers. We'll preview their season. We'll preview the Jazz season as well. Minutia getting into the Jazz today. No national show is talking about the Utah Jazz today. Just us. We're the only ones. And I'm joined by, from Locked On Bulls, Haize. When's the last time you thought about the Utah Jazz?
Oh, actually, a lot lately, because there's a lot of talk of the Bulls getting Walker Kessler. So actually, I've been thinking about the Jazz quite a bit over the last couple of weeks.
And from Locked On Nuggets, Matt Moore. Name one Jazz player that the casual fan doesn't know exists.
Bryce Sensabaugh, he's very good. Oscar Tshiebwe out of the G League, phenomenal. He's a monster rebounder in the G League. Oscar Tshiebwe, learn the name.
I interviewed him at a Adidas Gauntlet like AAU tournament like forever ago, and he was a monster then too. Just like he looked like a completely different human among boys. Today, we're going to get into all that. Let's start with the NBA GM survey that came out over the weekend. And one of the questions was, what rule regarding play, schedule, draft, lottery, etc. needs to change the most? And the number one that came up was roster construction. Apron rules are too hard. They are too harsh. You need to add a cap discount for players that you draft yourself. Allow trading partial salaries. Make all minimum contracts the same, etc. And 26% of the GM said this. So a fourth of the league agrees that roster construction is just too hard and needs to change at this point. Matt Moore, we'll start with you. Is the NBA broken? Has this CBA been as much of a disaster as it seems like people are thinking that it is?
Yes. Yeah. So, I think there's some interesting kind of back and forth on this with the people that have worked in the league, where some of them are like, look, it's good that you can't just hand out contracts like candy anymore, and you actually have to make tough decisions. And I think that's true, but I don't think fans want this system where you can't keep good teams together. I just don't think that's what fans want. And I'm always kind of the opinion of, if you are an entertainment product, you should be in pursuit of what the fans want. Not like in every regard, but in most regards, yeah. The league prides itself on being fan compliant and servicing the fans. Like, hey, you get an all-star vote and you get an MVP, but like all these type of things towards the fans. But they want things, they want fewer fouls, and they want fewer games to be shorter, and they want to know who's playing. They want to know who's on their team, and they want to be able to build those relationships. And the fact that you can't do that, I think, is extremely limiting, especially when you draft these guys and you're not able to really get a good deal to be able to keep them. And the allowing trading partial salaries is something that really struck me, where I was like, oh man, that would be so helpful. Like, that would just be like really helpful for managing some of the cap and stuff like that. I think that the NBA needs to make amendments, because everybody kind of realizes this system is way too punitive relative to what they wanted to accomplish.
You just said that the NBA should care about what its fans want. Keep in mind, Adam Silver just, a month ago said everybody was broke if they can't watch NBA games and for them to watch highlights on TikTok. That's what he said. So I don't think that he cares if they know if the teams can afford. Like, I get what you're saying, man, and what you're saying is very valid. But to me, like, no, you shouldn't make it easier to build teams. You should have to have thought process. For too long, money was just thrown away. Then teams end up having these balloon salaries on teams that couldn't do anything. I get it that it is restrictive, but that was the point of this thing. We're not even 5 years into the second tax apron yet. I think teams are going to adjust, but I do think that having something that forces your teams to be smarter about their acquisitions, smarter about their contracts, value their draft picks more, and maybe even put better emphasis on scouting and getting the right guys in there. I think that's what this is all going to result in, which it's going to be a long route, but hopefully the GMs that are smarter and that operate under this are going to have more good teams that are more sustainable for longer. So I'm actually in the contrary to this one. I think that people just need to deal with it. I can't say the phrase that I want to because Nick's here, but I'll tell you guys after the show gets done. I'll tell you, it's funny. My dad says it all the time, but get over it. It's done. Get over it.
Yeah, I think one of the things I was talking to Ryan Blackburn over at Locked On Nuggets last night, and we were talking about the future of the Nuggets, and one of the issues is this to me is a really good example. Aaron Gordon is going to be like 31 this season, and he's still really good and awesome. And he had a great postseason run, but like Aaron's going to slow down by the end of this contract. Like age 33, age 34, age 35, he's going to really slow down. He's still going to be making $35 million, and even with the cap going up, that's a big chunk, especially after they give Christian Brown probably too much money. So the problem is just like, that's what you're going to wind up seeing is, oh man, we got to dump Aaron Gordon. Like, do we want to see that? Like, do we want to see these teams, like these guys that fans have embraced, get shuffled off? And the other thing here is it squeezes this middle class of players that are the ones that I care about the most. It squeezes the guys that rebound, that play defense, that impact the game, that spot up, that understand how to play around other guys and make other guys better. Those, we're seeing the middle class get absolutely squeezed here. And that to me sucks because all it does is it loses the prominence of guys that actually help you win in favor of highlight guys. And that's just not something I'm ever going to be okay with.
I don't know if I agree with that. I mean, we look at the number of $20 million contracts that we saw go to role players. I don't know if the middle is getting squeezed as much. Like even in the situation that you ran, like, yeah, you may be forced to get rid of Aaron Gordon, but you just said it's while he's on the decline. Re-up, fine. Like you just did it with Michael Porter Jr., right? You got a better player in Cam Johnson while Michael Porter Jr. is like, teams are going to have to be forced to make those decisions. And while, yeah, it sucks to lose a player, and it probably does mean the end of a player stays in your jersey for all of their career, even though that doesn't apply to Aaron Gordon. If you're team building, sometimes I figured out a way to say the phrase that I want to that's locked on compliant. Tough Biddy said the kitty. Figure it out. Get it over.
Have to imagine that's the first time that's ever been said on a Locked On program at any point across all platforms in any scenario.
That's amazing. That's awesome. I'm getting t-shirts made.
The other thing for the NBA GM survey that stood out to me was the which player acquisition will make the biggest impact. And Locked On Rockets talked about this, and so I wanted to hear from Jackson Gatlin on which player will make the biggest impact because the one from last year kind of surprised me.
Kevin Durant on this NBA GM survey, and he only pops up in two different categories in this one. One that made absolutely the most sense. No way you slice any way you slice it, which was which one player acquisition will make the biggest impact. And the Kevin Durant to Houston trade received 73% of the available votes. The Desmond Bane to Orlando trade receiving the remainder of percentage votes, clocking in at 17%. And then also receiving votes was Cooper Flagg, Drew Holiday, and Miles Turner. So weirdly enough, the vote for last year was Paul George at 60% for the 76ers, and we see how that turned out. So hopefully it's not a similar situation in Houston with KD. But the other one that he showed up in, Brandon, I thought this was weird, and this is like, I'm gonna have to expand this because this is like a problem with the whole list, or at least these few categories, is who's the best small forward in the NBA right now? Luka Doncic won this poll with 40% of the available votes. Luka's not a small forward.
You're spoiling my.
Let's talk a little Kevin Durant.
First of all, let's start with the Paul George won this last year. How does the Kevin Durant deal not end up being like the Paul George? Because GMs last year thought that the Paul George move would make the biggest impact on the team. You could argue maybe that it did make a huge impact on the team.
Got him a lottery pick. It made a huge impact.
It made a huge impact. But how is the Kevin Durant one going to be different than the Paul George one, Haize?
I mean, I think because like KD isn't going to be too hard to fit in. Like literally what KD does is exactly what the Houston Rockets needed. They needed somebody that when they can't get a half-court bucket can score outside the framework of the offense. That's what KD brings. And in the one game that we've had so far, it looks like they're going to be able to play off each other. Now, losing Fred is going to hurt that a little bit, but I don't see it. KD is still a very productive player. Still he's sixth in scoring last year, very efficient from the offensive side of the ball. The only way that this can go left is injury. And not to say that that's not a concern for KD, because it is. The last two seasons, though, he's played 75 and 62 games. So I think there's less of a risk there than so. But as you always have older players, there's always a chance of that. But I'm not too worried about it because I think that the fit there is the thing. Paul George, the health, the fit with Tyrese Maxey, that was one of the biggest questions there. It just didn't work out.
Yeah, I don't want to. I actually think that everyone's being way too harsh on Paul George, where it's like, guy got hurt, and this is a guy that you're like, well, he's injury prone, is he? Like, he fractured his leg playing for Team USA, and that sucks. But in general, Paul's been pretty available. Paul had to play a lot of games when Kawhi Leonard was unavailable for various reasons, was out planting trees. So I don't think that Paul George is necessarily like done here, and we might wind up being this year like, it's pretty good. It's Paul George. And with KD, like, yeah, like injuries can be a problem, but with him outside of the Achilles, and he's done the work to get back from that, KD doesn't have that bad of a long-term injury history. He had a foot problem 2015, I think. And then, or 13, maybe 13 or 15. And then in general, he's been pretty healthy and available. So I will say, if you look at some of the advanced numbers, there's been like a drop off. There's been like a drop and then like a little bit of a tail, and that tends to happen with guys. To me, it's more of that Kevin Durant's still great, but it doesn't wind up making the Rockets any better, because Kevin Durant has not been a player that has made other players better. I don't think that's KD's role, and I don't think that has to be KD's role. Like, I don't think that takes or removes anything from the greatness of Kevin Durant. I just think that if we're going to look at how this can go sideways, that to me is the way it goes sideways.
Hopefully for Locked On Rockets, it doesn't turn out that way. I just thought that was funny, how badly that one went last year. And that was the number one option for the NBA GM survey last year. Coming up, let's talk about Luka being listed as a small forward. We'll also preview the Pacers. What are they even playing for this season? Locked On NBA Daily continues coming up next. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Daily is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton has you covered when you are like, I want to start working out and I don't really know what to do, or I'm working out and it doesn't feel like it's really helping me. I don't really know if I'm doing things right. They have the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus. It's powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move. It's not just riding the bike anymore. Whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors, this is training reimagined. The thing I like about it is the Peloton IQ system offers real-time coaching. It actually tracks your reps, which is huge. How many of you have lost count of reps? I 100% have. Suggest the right weights, corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter, which is what we all want. All to be more efficient, all to be smarter and safer as well. Absolutely. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today on onepeloton.com. That's the word one, onepeloton.com. Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA Daily, being part of the show, being it every day, or listening every single day. We have a link in the description that shows every single one of our shows. We have a show that covers your favorite team, Locked On Bulls, Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Mavs is what we host, and then also Locked On Rockets with Jackson Gatlin. He'll be fun to watch all season long, try and figure out what that Rockets team is going to do. We also have Locked On Lakers, and Luka Doncic was given a stray at the end of that last clip from Locked On Rockets, Haize, where he was listed as the best power or small forward in the league. And Jackson took umbrage because he thought that Luka is not a small forward. Your thoughts?
He's not. Like, Luka, like, he's a point guard. That's his role. That's what he plays. Like, this conversation around Luka's position and how it pops up every 1 to 2 years. Like, Luka will tell you he's playing point guard for that team. He's on ball all the time. That's where he's best at. Like, I get why the conversation is there, but I think positions nowadays that they are so, it depends on the perspective you want to have the conversation from, because a lot of times people want to, well, what were they when they were drafted? Well, that doesn't always hold true either. What were they when they played in college? And now having point forwards and things like that, it makes it confusing for some people. I don't think Luka's a small forward. Could he play small forward? Sure, but I view Luka as a point guard.
I mean, I just think that there's so many players that are so good they break the mold, and Luka fits into this category of what I refer to as omega forwards, where they do everything. Because Luka's a great rebounder. Like, he's a great rebounder. He's a mass rebounder. He's an awesome passer. He's obviously a high-profile scorer, and he's, a lot of his game has been predicated on post-ups and like little fadeaways using his size and his strength. So he's not just like a point guard. He's not a floor setter. He's not like a floor general. He's something entirely different to me. So I don't mind that they do this, but I think it's one of the problems with like trying to do any sort of positional analysis now in the NBA is Luka Doncic a small forward? You could say that, but I don't know if that's like an accurate thing to say either.
It's also like, who do you guard too? Is kind of like what positions are, because then on
So
offense,
he's nothing. That's
I mean, that's even difficult, Nick, because like we saw Alex Caruso guarding Jokic. Like that's happened.
so he's a center.
That's what I'm saying. So like that's what, like you can't even judge about who you guard now. Like with as much switching is done in the NBA and stuff like that, I don't even know if you could judge it off that.
You probably can't. I don't know if you could judge the Pacers off of this season either. Without Tyrese Haliburton, we'll see what this season is going to be all about. Let's talk about the Pacers and preview their season. Let's hear from Tony East. What's the biggest question the Pacers will have to answer this season when it comes to a season without Tyrese Haliburton?
Here of Locked On Pacers, the biggest question for the Pacers this year, what is this year about and going to look like? Many have called it a gap year or something similar in phrasing to that. Tyrese Haliburton is not going to play this season. What does that mean for their record? How many more games will they win? What does that mean for their play style? Can they play the way that they did with him, without him, or should they? If they're trying to maximize their wins this season, they probably shouldn't, but they probably should try to refine that style for when he does come back. Answering all those questions will be so telling for the Pacers season. How good can they be without him? Can a Pascal Siakam led team be really solid, as the Raptors were at times in the past? This is a different Pacers team. Can their young guys get better in a way that offsets some, not all, some of the absence of Tyrese Haliburton and Miles Turner's departure? How the Pacers play, what it looks like, will be telling for both their results this year and their long-term outlook as they venture on after their NBA Finals run.
Haize, you were looking sideways at Tony East. What do you think this season is about for the Pacers?
Well, I was looking sideways because is that a wired headphone microphone? Who uses wired headphones? Peasants. Tony East, get better.
It's better. I have them. I told Tony to use them because the microphone is better than the AirPods. I swear.
They sell, I'll send it to you. Hollyland sells a wireless mic. It's $25. It sounds amazing. Anyway, no, but what is the season for the Pacers? I think it's an evaluation year. I think we
can't be calling hosts poverty hosts. We do the poverty franchise thing already. We can't be doing it to the other hosts.
Poverty podcast equipment. How about that? But it's a gap year is a good word for it, because you're trying to see if Ben Mathurin, Nesmith, and Nembhard, any of these guys, like how they develop, and that's going to help kind of determine what the next path for your team is once Tyrese is back. And if I'm not mistaken, they own their own first round pick outright too. So if these guys excel and you're competing in the East even for a play-in, okay. If not, and you end up in the lottery, that works for you too. But I think this is a season where you really want to evaluate for fit, growth, and then make your determination, because the Pacers do like to avoid the luxury tax as well. And so those decisions are really important for them.
I think the season could be about more. I just think that the upside, I'm a little bit higher on the Pacers upside here. Rick Carlisle, we know Andrew Nembhard's good. We know Aaron Nesmith's good. And we know that Benedict Mathurin has scoring potential. And a lot of me is everyone just kind of like, well, no Haliburton. And I am a acolyte at the church of Tyrese Haliburton. But Tyrese is not all that ball dominant. He doesn't have the ball in his hands every single possession, which means that the other guys know how to figure stuff out when he's not involved in the play. And they've been able to do that. I'm not saying they're going to be a 50-win team. They're not. But I do think they're going to be above 500. I do think they're going to be competitive. I think they'll figure out the center position. It looks awful, but whenever things look this bad, it usually teams figure out something along the way. So I kind of think that this season is going to be more about, getting those other guys better, still competing. And I still think this team can probably be a squad that at least is a pain once the playoffs come around, if they can get in the Eastern Conference.
I mean, that's a great point, Matt. Last year was his lowest usage rate since the 2021 season. And so, they've gradually learned to do more and more without Halliburton being ball dominant. And he was still the engine of that offense, though. And I still think that it's still going to be quite an adjustment for those guys, on top of also losing Miles Turner, who's been there for the longest.
The other question we asked the Pacers was, how do they keep their title window open next season? And we asked Tony East that, and this is what he had to say.
Here from Locked On Pacers, how do the Pacers keep their title window open when Tyrese Haliburton comes back and next year comes? This year's got to be about learning as much as they can about their team. They're going to be wanting to develop. They're going to be wanting to win with the team that they have, and that's all noble and makes good sense. They're still a young team, mostly from top to bottom. But when Tyrese Haliburton returns, they need the players around him to be perhaps a little better, one, to offset any decline in his ability, but also be more versatile. Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith, Ben Mathurin, Jarris Walker, Ben Shepherd, all those guys. Can you play a few more positions? Can you add a few more skills to your bag? What else will you be able to do when Tyrese Haliburton is back on the floor? Because that's how the Pacers reopen their title window and stay in contention, is if he declines at all, him being Haliburton, they offset that with other improvements and widening skill abilities from the rest of their team and keep adding talent where they can. To do that, they need their players to get better, stay valuable, and keep improving. Their development system's been great of late.
Matt Moore, can the Pacers learn enough about their team in this season to keep their title window open?
No, because you can't. It fundamentally does change things when Haliburton comes back, and you will get more serious. So a lot of these opportunities that guys had to make mistakes or grow through them, or how those opportunities will kind of change and shift, and that's, I think, is pretty important. They do need to figure out. They're at a point where I think they need to figure out a number of things. One, are they going to give Ben Mathurin like a long-term thing? Like, this is the year for him to kind of show, is he part of their long-term future or not? And if he is, then that's going to make for some tough decisions with some of the other guys. From there, I think you got to get into like John. Look at all these guys that they've got, like Ben Shepherd, Johnny Furby, Jarris Walker. They have a bunch of guys that are like, hey, they're pretty good. Are they really good? Like, are they going to stick around? You have to call that down and figure out who's in, who's out for this team. And then somewhere they should also figure out like center. That's a thing that they should probably do, is figure out who's
not a J Huff guy.
No.
I don't think anybody should be a J Huff guy.
Oh.
We also need to find out, is Tony East also recording in that little room under the stairs that Harry Potter lived in? Is that also like what's going on there? But like,
that's what all the houses in Indiana look like.
But no
windows.
The center's the thing that they really do need to figure out. Like, they have a lot of guys that I do think are going to step up. Ben Mathurin is a guy that I've been high on literally since he was drafted. I think this is going to be a really big season for him. Already been said that Ricardo said he's going to start the season from day one. So seeing how he grows over the season is going to be the story, but they eventually have to find a center. And we have one in Chicago named Nikola Vucevic that I'm trying to get somebody to take. Please, somebody take Nikola Vucevic, please.
You guys want a big theoretical three-point shooter? Come get Vooch.
Theoretical is right.
That's so is Miles Turner. Coming up, let's talk about the Jazz. That's right, a national NBA show talking about the Jazz, of course, on Locked On. What is this year about for the Jazz, and what's the biggest question for them? David Locke asked that and more coming up. Locked On NBA Daily continues coming up next. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Daily is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here. FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. New customers can bet $5, and if you win, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app and use them across all kinds of different things. You can use it for the NFL, use it for college football, all that. But we're here talking about the NBA. We were talking about Luka earlier. His odds to win the MVP plus 400. He's only behind Jokic plus 300 and SGA plus 160 to win the MVP. Giannis plus 1200. He just played and he's back recently. If he plays with his team, I guess enough that he could get there. Victor Wembanyama plus 1200. He is tied there with Giannis. Anthony Edwards plus 2500. Cade Cunningham long shot plus 5000. Kevin Durant, who we were talking about earlier, plus 7000. Jalen Brunson plus 10,000. Same as Donovan Mitchell. What's the craziest like wild card? Anthony Davis plus 25,000. If you got an extra $100 lying around and you're just like, hey, let me just throw this down. You can change your life if Anthony Davis wins MVP. So go check it out. Again, if you're new, you can put down $5 and win $300 in bonus bets if that one wins. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com, download the FanDuel app today, and get started at FanDuel.com. Please gamble responsibly. Also brought to you by Monarch Money. If you're somebody like me, you got too much going on. You got multiple shows. You got all this stuff. Sports is happening. We're in the sports equinox, or we're getting there right now, where all the sports are playing at once, and you got to love that. You can't be like going through every single line by line thing and every single credit card statement, every single debit card statement or whatever. Monarch Money is built for you, people with busy lives, and have put off organizing your finances. And you're like, it's just so much going on at once. Monarch Money will help you. They have great data visuals. Like, the thing that I love about it is you add all your accounts. It took me minutes. It's not very hard. And then all of a sudden you see exactly where you're spending all your money, all the categorizations of it. You see where it's all going. And that way you can figure out, all right, where am I spending too much? What am I not investing in enough? You can do that on Monarch Money. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with the code LOCKEDONNBA. Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA Daily. We go listen to Locked On Pacers with Tony East. He uses a regular mic and does not use the wired Apple headphones for his show. Haize, I just wanted to make it clear that that's what he does.
I would surely hope not, because if he did, that we'd have problems. I'd have to. It's only a 3-hour drive to him. I'd have to drive to him and help him out a little bit.
Just go there, smack him, and then just leave and leave the box on his doorstep with the new mic. If you've listened to Locked On at all, you know David Locke probably at some point. So you've maybe thought about or cared about the Utah Jazz. What is the biggest question for the Utah Jazz going into the season? Let's hear from our guy David Locke about that.
Question for the Utah Jazz in this upcoming season obviously circles around that of Ace Bailey. What is he capable to do? The 5th pick of the draft, incredible length, great athleticism. How raw is he? Where is his maturity level? What is he capable to do in year one? Frankly, his success is what's going to drive the Jazz in the future and get them out of this rebuilding process. The number 2 aspect is which of the plethora of young players that they have, whether it's last year's draft of Cody Williams, Isaiah Collier, Kyle Filipowski, the year prior to that of Keontae George, Bryce Sensabaugh in their draft, and Taylor Hendricks returning from injury, or Walt Clayton Jr. in this year's draft. Of those 7 players, which of those players are going to be pieces of the future for the Utah Jazz? The headliner every night is Ace Bailey, but the other 7 have a magnificent opportunity this year to make major strides and become a part of the Jazz future.
Matt Moore, which one of those 7 will be part of the Jazz future?
Of which 7?
The 7 of the young Jazz that he was speaking about.
Oh man.
Ace Bailey, Isaiah Collier, Bryce Sensabaugh you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, so I actually just want to kind of I don't think any of them are going to be part of the future, because that's not usually how it goes with these kind of teams. But I will say this. So last year we thought oh my God, look at this Nets team. Oh my God, they're going to tank so hard. They're going to be so horrible. And then the Nets were fine. They weren't good. They're bad, but they were not that bad. It's never the team that we think is going to be the absolute worst in the NBA that actually is the worst in the NBA. Now, the Jazz very clearly want to be the worst in the NBA. By the way, Joe Tsai for the Nets said this weekend that they came out and said they're tanking, came out and admitted it. But there's talent here on the Jazz when you go kind of shopping. Taylor Hendricks actually stands out a lot when you do the deep dive. Bryce Sensabaugh, I've been on for a while. Bryce is pretty good. Isaiah Collier's assist rate is through the roof. That guy can pass. He's got to learn how to shoot. This is the big season for Keontae George, I think. Ace Bailey's had a phenomenal start to the season. It's easy to just pass off all these guys because the idea is just none of these guys matter. This team's terrible. That's it. And you're mostly right. But the problem is some of these guys will wind up on competing teams later. Some of these guys will wind up on teams where you're who's really good for this playoff team. So that's what you're watching with this Jazz team this year whenever you happen to catch them, probably by accident or because someone forced you at gunpoint, is that these guys will turn out to be actual players. It just may not be for this Jazz team. Haize, I want to ask you this. Do you agree with this direction that they chose to take where it's they clearly did not want to get better? I don't know why you do this after the lottery screwed you last year. Why do you go back to the well again? I don't understand why these teams, the Wizards, are going to do this, and all these teams, look who they rewarded last year. I don't understand why you would do this again after suffering that kind of misery last season. What's the point anymore?
I don't know if the Jazz are going to tank it until they get their star. I think they've shown that they're committed to that. They may have that in Ace Bailey. I mean, to get to the next question, who's going to be part of the future? I do think Ace, Isaiah Collier, and Kyle Filipowski are going to be part of the team. I think Cody Williams has a chance too. I don't know if he ever reaches kind of what the projections were for him, but I do think he's going to turn into a solid wing defender and maybe a shooter for them. So I think they have some that are going to be here. I don't know. I'm not saying how good those guys are going to all going to be. The only one that I have faith is going to be, has the potential to be a star for sure, is Ace. I think he has that chance there. And, even if he doesn't want to be there, they basically have control over that with restricted free agency for the next 8 years when it all comes down to it. So we'll see how that works out. But I think Ace, Isaiah Collier, Cody Williams, Kyle Filipowski, I really believe in those guys. I think they have talent there. I just hope that the Jazz aren't ruining that talent by trying to tank and not building in the right winning habits for those players at this time. That's what I worry about, is scarring those guys because of that.
I know it's not always the team you think that it's going to be at the bottom of the standings, but we did the West preview with all the Locked On hosts this weekend, and you start going through it, and you're like, I just don't know how it's not the Jazz. Like, if it's not the Jazz, who's the team at the bottom of the West then?
It's probably a team with worse. I get it. I get what you're saying, but again, I just think I'm this way with most sports, NFL included, where it's like this team is going to be the worst, and this team is actually going to be pretty surprising. Like last year, we were like, you know what, like this could be the year for the Hornets, and then no, that team was absolutely wretched and sad.
It was a year for the Hornets.
Yeah, it was a year for the Hornets. So I tend to not believe that the things that we believe are ironclad in preseason or how it works out. The Jazz will be. I guess here's like a better question: is like, what's the highest they would be? Like, what's the point where you're like, there is no way they are better than X spot? And it's probably like they're probably third worst. Like they can't be any better than third worst in the West, right?
Like how Brooklyn was better than the Sixers last year, and you're like, wait, how is that happening?
Yeah. I think though, if you want like the upside, what you want is you want to turn into a fun team that loses, but is like, hey, they're kind of frisky, like they're tough. And Ace gives, I think, them that opportunity because all you need is like a baseline score every single night. And then you start getting into like, well, okay, is Walker Kessler good? Yes, Walker Kessler is really good. Okay. Is Lauri Markkanen good? Yeah. All right, so Ace Bailey, Lauri Markkanen, Walker Kessler. Okay. Do you have guys that can pass? Yeah, you got Isaiah Collier. Do you have guys that can defend? You actually have some. Again, I'm not going to sit here and try to act like this team is like, yes, but we also don't want to fall into the same trap that certain programs that were on one network and now are on another fall into, where they're like, I don't even know who he plays for because they're all irrelevant and they don't matter. Like we cover this differently on Locked On, and these guys are like, there's talent on this Jazz team, but you have to decide that you actually want to care enough to go find it.
I just can't believe you would call out the dunker spot like that. Like they just moved networks and
would never do that to my good friend J.E. Skeets and Frank Irving.
No, the dunker spot with
Nikias
and Steve.
And Steve, yeah. No, those guys suck. I'm just kidding. All these guys are really good.
It's not about, for me, it's not about doubting the talent of the Jazz. It's about doubting the goals of the front office, because like I see there are going to be a lot of mysterious injuries as the season goes on from them. And David Locke's going to be covering a lot of G League players at times this season. So that's what it's worried about for me. Like we talk about the players, they got talent down there, but much like last season, like people have mysterious illnesses. That's the thing that's going to plague them. And that's what I worry about with the Jazz.
If you're worried about the Utah Jazz in any way, shape, or form, go listen to Locked On Jazz. Link in the description. Go follow all these great shows happening all the time, all throughout. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On NBA Daily. Now cue the music.